In this video, we're going to talk about topic 5.7, and we're going to look at example 1D. So on this, we know in order to get rid of the radical, we need to square both sides. So I'm squaring this side, and I'm squaring this side. Whenever I see the squared on something like this, I need to write it twice. So 2 square root of x minus 3 times square root of 2x minus 3 equals, and here we know the square root and the square cancel each other. So we would just get 10x plus 11. Over here, we're going to have to FOIL. So remember, square root of 2x times square root of 2x is just the number that's underneath. So it would be 2x. Then I would have square root of 2 times negative 3 would be negative 3 square root of 2x. I'd have that again in the center, which means I need to combine like terms, which would give me negative 3, and negative 3 is negative 6 square root of 2x. The square root of 2x acts like a variable. And then finally, I have to multiply negative 3 times negative 3, and that gives me positive 9 equals 10x plus 11. Okay, I am now going to do some combining like terms. I'm going to try to move everything to the right except for the square root. So I'm going to move the 2x by subtracting it, which is going to give me 8x. I'm going to move the 9 by subtracting it, which is going to give me a 2. And then I'm just going to drop down the negative 6 square root of 2x. Next, normally I would want to move this over, but I don't think that's going to help me because it's going to create fractions over here. So I'm just going to go ahead and square it on this side. So I'm going to square both sides to get rid of this radical. So that means I'm distributing this in, which would give me negative 6 squared and the square root of 2x squared. Over here, remember, squared means I got to write it twice. So 8x plus 2 times 8x plus 2. Negative 6 squared is 36. And then the square and the square root are going to cancel. So I get 2x equals, I'm going to FOIL on this side. So 8x times 8x is 64x squared. 8x times 2 would be 16x, and I'm going to have 2 of those, which would make 32x in the middle. 2 times 2 is 4. All right, then I'm going to multiply this right here. So 36 times 2 is 72x equals 64x squared plus 32x plus 4. This one's ugly. All right, I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it to the other side by subtracting. So I have x equals 64x squared. It's 32x minus 72 is 40x plus 4. Now, it's entirely possible. We could take out a greatest common factor, and it's entirely possible that a magic x would work on this. But those numbers are pretty ugly, so I'm going to choose to do the quadratic formula to try to solve for x. And I just made this equal to x, and it should have been an equal to 0. Because remember, to solve for a quadratic, it has to be equal to 0. All right, so quadratic formula, remember, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, so x equals negative, so my b is the 40, negative 40x, well, not for x, just negative 40. And then plus or minus the square root of negative 40 squared. Minus 4 times my a, which is 64, times my c, which is 4, all over 2 times 64. All right, double negative is going to go positive 40. All right, let's see what we can get under this radical sign. I'm going to go ahead and use some Desmos to help me out here because that's a calculator. That's definitely calculator work there. So let's go Desmos. Maybe. It's thinking about it. Okay, so we're going to have, it was negative 40 squared is going to be 1600. So 1600 minus, I need 4 times 64 times 4. 4 times 64 times 4 is 1,024. And then I need 2 times 64. 2 times 64 is 128. Sorry. 128. Okay. So let's go here. We've got 40 plus or minus the square root of something over 128. So we're going to have 1,600 minus 1,024 is 576. 576. All right. So we need to see if this breaks down, because if you're going to have to answer it in Delta Math, you probably have to have the simplest answer. And I don't think we have 576 is a square number, you guys. It's 24 squared. Check this out. So here's what I would do with this, okay? I would take this whole thing and let's put it into Otis, but do 1 times a plus and 1 as a minus, okay? So let me show you, because it's technically 2 separate answers. So, because this one should have been able to be factored. So I'm going to use some parentheses, and I'm going to go 40 plus square root of 576, and then I'm going to divide by 128. And look at that. I got 0.5, which is 1/2, right? 1/2, or I'm going to go ahead and just switch it to a minus sign. And that gives me 1.25. And look at this. We can hit this little button right here. That gives us the fraction 1/8, which it'll probably take either one. That's a pretty ugly one. I would not put one that nasty on a test, but it's good for you to know and see how to do the hard ones sometimes. Good review of quadratic formula.